The cafe on Maple Street was like any other small eatery you'd find in a quiet neighborhood. It had large windows that let sunlight pour in during the day, casting warm golden hues across wooden tables and mismatched chairs. The walls were painted, a soft cream color, decorated sparingly with framed photographs of old streets and vintage coffee grinders. A faint aroma of freshly brewed coffee lingered in the air, mingling with the scent of baked goods from the kitchen. For most people passing by, it was just another cozy spot to grab breakfast or lunch. But for Emily Carter, it was more than that. It was her second home. Emily had been working at the cafe for nearly 5 years now. At 28, she wasn't exactly living the dream life she'd imagined as a teenager. Her days were filled with taking orders, refilling cups of coffee, and cleaning up after customers who rarely noticed her name tag. Still, she didn't complain. She liked the predictability of her job, even if it meant long hours on her feet. What kept her going was knowing that every paycheck helped pay for her mother's medical bills. Mrs. Carter had fallen ill a few years ago, and since then, Emily had taken over caring for her. Life wasn't easy, but Emily had learned to make. That particular afternoon, the cafe wasn't too busy. There were only a handful of customers scattered around, 2 elderly men chatting over chess near the window, a young couple sharing dessert at a corner table, and a businessman typing furiously on his laptop while sipping black coffee. Emily moved between the tables with practiced ease, balancing trays laden with plates and drinks. She knew the regulars by heart. Mr. Peterson always ordered a cappuccino with extra foam. Mrs. Dawson preferred her tea served with honey instead of sugar, and Jake from the bookstore down the street loved their chocolate croissants. But today, there was someone new. Sitting near the counter was a boy, probably no older than 8 or 9. He wore glasses with thick lenses, though they seemed more decorative than functional. Beside him rested a white cane, its tip resting lightly against the floor. His hands hovered uncertainly over the table, feeling for the edge of his plate. Across from him sat a man in an expensive-looking suit. His hair was neatly combed and his watch glinted under the light, a clear sign of wealth. Despite his polished appearance, there was something unmistakably weary about him. His eyes darted back and forth between the boy and the menu, as if unsure what to do next. Emily approached the table cautiously, holding a notepad and pen. "Hi there," she said with a polite smile. "Can I get you started with anything?" The man looked up, startled for a moment before nodding. "Yes, thank you. We'll have—" He paused, glancing at the boy beside him. "Noah, what would you like to eat?" Noah tilted his head slightly, listening intently. Pancakes?" he replied hesitantly. "Pancakes sound great," the man confirmed, giving Emily a tight-lipped smile. "And I'll take a coffee black." As Emily jotted down the order, she couldn't help but notice how awkward the interaction felt. The man, whose name she later learned was Daniel, seemed distant, almost uncomfortable. He fidgeted with his phone, avoiding eye contact with both her and Noah. Meanwhile, Noah sat quietly, his fingers tracing the rim of his glass. There was a fragility to the scene that tugged at Emily's heartstrings. When the food arrived, Emily placed the steaming stack of pancakes in front of Noah along with a small pitcher of syrup. She watched as he reached out tentatively, his movements slow and deliberate. His fork clinked against the plate as he tried to locate the pancakes, but his aim was off. Syrup dripped onto the tablecloth and Noah froze, his face flushing red. "I'm sorry," he mumbled, pulling his hand away quickly. "It's okay," Daniel said, reaching over to dab at the spill with a napkin. His tone was calm, but there was a hint of frustration beneath the surface. "Let me help you." Before Daniel could intervene further, Emily stepped in. "Excuse me," she said softly, placing a reassuring hand on Noah's shoulder. "Would you like some help eating? Sometimes it's easier when someone guides your hand." Noah hesitated, his lips pressed together tightly. Finally, he nodded. "Okay," he whispered. Without hesitation, Emily pulled up a chair and sat beside him. She gently took his hand, guiding it to the fork. Together they speared a piece of pancake and brought it to his mouth. Noah chewed slowly, savoring the taste, while Emily encouraged him with a smile. "See? You're doing great." For the first time since they arrived, Noah relaxed. He leaned into the process, trusting Emily's guidance. Daniel watched silently from across the table, his expression unreadable. When the meal was finished, Noah beamed with pride. "Thank you," he said, turning his face toward Emily's voice. "You're very welcome," she replied warmly. "It was my pleasure." Daniel cleared his throat, drawing Emily's attention. "I can't thank you enough," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "This isn't something we experience often." Emily shrugged modestly. "It's nothing, really. Just happy to help." Before she left the table, Daniel handed her a business card. "If there's ever anything I can do for you, please don't hesitate to reach out." Though Emily accepted the card politely, she tucked it into her apron pocket without giving it much thought. To her, it was just a kind gesture, a fleeting moment in an otherwise ordinary day. Little did she know this encounter would change everything. After the quiet cafe encounter, Emily returned to her routine. She continued serving coffee, clearing tables, and chatting with regular customers as if nothing unusual had happened. But the memory of Noah and his father lingered in the back of her mind. The boy's shy smile and Daniel's heartfelt gratitude stayed with her throughout the day, even as she focused on her tasks. Still, she didn't think much of the business card tucked into her apron pocket. To her, it was just a polite gesture, a small token of appreciation that wouldn't lead to anything significant. That evening, after her shift ended, Emily walked home under the soft glow of streetlights. Her apartment wasn't far from the cafe, but the walk always gave her time to reflect. As she climbed the stairs to her second-floor unit, she thought about Noah again. Helping him eat had been such a simple act, yet it seemed to mean so much to both him and his father. It reminded her of how often people overlook the little things, how a kind word or a helping hand could make someone's day brighter. When she got inside, Emily tossed her apron onto the kitchen counter and began sorting through its pockets. Coins, receipts, and crumpled napkins spilled out onto the table. Then she found it, the business card Daniel had given her. Curiosity got the better of her, and she turned it over in her hands. The card was sleek and professional, printed on thick paper with sharp lettering. Daniel Bennett, CEO, Bennett Innovations. Below the name was an address and phone number. Emily frowned. Something about the name sounded familiar, though she couldn't quite place it. She grabbed her laptop from the living room and opened it on the dining table. Typing Bennett Innovations into the search bar, she clicked on the first result that popped up. What she discovered made her sit back in surprise. Bennett Innovations wasn't just any company, it was one of the most successful tech firms in the country. Founded by Daniel Bennett himself, the company specialized in creating cutting-edge accessibility technology for people with disabilities. From voice-activated devices to advanced mobility aids, their products were revolutionizing lives worldwide. Emily scrolled through articles and photos, marveling at the innovations they had developed. One headline caught her eye. How Bennett. Innovations is changing the world for people with disabilities. Her heart raced as she read more about the company's mission. They weren't just building gadgets, they were empowering individuals, giving them tools to live fuller, more independent lives. And Daniel Bennett, the man who had sat across from her earlier that day, was at the center of it all. He wasn't just wealthy, he was a visionary leader whose work touched countless lives. Emily closed her laptop, her mind spinning. How had she not realized who he was? In hindsight, it made sense. The expensive suit, the polished demeanor, the way he carried himself, with quiet authority. Yet despite his success, there had been a vulnerability in his eyes when he spoke about Noah. For all his accomplishments, he seemed deeply affected by his son's struggles. For the rest of the night, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that their paths crossing hadn't been mere coincidence. She replayed the moment in her head, wondering if she should reach out. But what would she even say? She wasn't looking for charity, nor did she expect anything in return for her kindness. Still, Part of her hoped that Daniel might follow through on his offer. After all, working in accessibility technology sounded like something she could truly believe in. The next morning, Emily woke up early and headed to the cafe as usual. The morning rush kept her busy, leaving little time to dwell on her thoughts. By mid-afternoon, however, things slowed down again. As she wiped down a table near the window, she noticed a black car pull up outside. The driver stepped out and opened the door for none other than Daniel Bennett. Emily froze, unsure what to do. Should she approach him? Pretend nothing happened? Before she could decide, Daniel entered the cafe and spotted her immediately. He smiled warmly and walked over. "Emily, right?" he asked, extending his hand. "Yes, Mr. Bennett," she replied, shaking it nervously. "Is everything okay?" "I hope I'm not interrupting your work," he said. "I wanted to thank you again for what you did yesterday. It meant a lot, not just to me, but to Noah, too." "Oh, it was nothing," Emily said quickly, brushing off the compliment. "Really, I was happy to help." Daniel nodded thoughtfully. "Still, I'd like to repay the favor somehow. You mentioned you've been working here for a while. Are you happy with where you are professionally?" Emily hesitated. She hadn't expected this question. "Well, I enjoy helping people," she admitted. "But I guess I've always wondered if there's more I could be doing." Daniel's eyes lit up with interest. "Tell me about it. What kind of work inspires you?" She glanced around the cafe, searching for the right words. "I don't know much about technology or big companies, but I care about making life easier for others, especially those who might feel left behind." "That's exactly what we aim to do at Bennett Innovations," Daniel said. "We're always looking for people who understand the human side of our work. Someone like you could bring a fresh perspective to our team." Emily blinked in disbelief. Was he offering her a job? I don't have any experience in tech," she stammered. "I'm just a waitress." "You don't need technical skills to start," Daniel assured her. "What you have is empathy, and that's something we value deeply. If you're interested, I'd love for you to visit our office. We can discuss how you might fit into our projects." Emily felt overwhelmed but intrigued. This was an opportunity she never imagined possible. "I'd like that," she said finally. "Thank you." Later that week, Emily visited Bennett Innovations headquarters. The building was a towering glass structure located downtown, its modern design reflecting the innovative spirit within. As she stepped inside, she was greeted by sleek furniture, interactive displays, and employees bustling about with purpose. It was a world entirely different from the cafe, yet strangely exciting. Daniel welcomed her personally, leading her to a spacious conference room. Over the course of their meeting, he explained the company's goals and shared stories of the impact their products had made. He also introduced her to several team members, each of whom expressed enthusiasm about having someone with Emily's perspective join their efforts. By the end of the visit, Emily knew she wanted to be part of this. Though the role intimidated her, she couldn't deny the sense of purpose it offered. For the first time in years, she saw a future beyond the cafe, a chance to make a real difference. Emily's first few weeks at Bennett Innovations were a whirlwind of new experiences. The office was nothing like the cafe she had grown accustomed to. It buzzed with energy, filled with people typing on laptops, sketching designs on whiteboards, and testing prototypes in labs. At first, Emily felt out of place. She wasn't an engineer or a designer. She didn't know how to code or build machines. But Daniel had been clear when he hired her. Her role wasn't about technical skills. It was about understanding people, their struggles, their needs, and their hopes, and ensuring that the company's products truly made a difference. Her days started with team meetings where engineers and developers discussed their latest projects. Emily listened intently as they explained complex ideas, jotting down notes whenever something resonated with her. Over time, she began to see patterns in their conversations. Many of them focused on functionality, how fast a device could process commands or how small it could be made. But fewer talked about the emotional impact of their work. That's where Emily stepped in. During one meeting, the team was debating the design of a voice-activated assistant for visually impaired users. They argued over whether to prioritize speed or accuracy, each side presenting compelling arguments. Finally, Emily raised her hand hesitantly. "What if we think about how someone might feel using this?" she suggested. "Imagine being blind and relying on this device to guide you through your day. If it makes even one mistake, it could leave you feeling frustrated or lost." The room fell silent as everyone turned to look at her. One of the engineers nodded slowly. "She's right," he said. "We're so focused on making it perfect that we forgot what matters most, how it feels to use." From that moment on, Emily became an integral part of the team. Her input helped shape not only the features of their products but also the way they approached user testing. She advocated for involving real people with disabilities in every stage of development, insisting that their feedback was invaluable. To her surprise, her colleagues welcomed her ideas, often praising her ability to see things from a different perspective. Despite her growing confidence at work, Emily still struggled with imposter syndrome. She worried that she wasn't smart enough or qualified enough to contribute meaningfully, but Daniel reassured her whenever doubts crept in. "You bring something unique to this team," he told her during one of their check-ins. "Your empathy is what drives innovation here. Don't underestimate its value." His words stayed with her, giving her the courage to push forward. Slowly, she began to take ownership of her role, asking questions, offering suggestions, and collaborating closely with others. She even started volunteering to test prototypes herself, putting herself in the shoes of potential users. It was challenging work, but it gave her a sense of purpose she hadn't felt in years. As the months passed, Emily noticed changes not just in her professional life but in her personal life too. For the first time since her mother fell ill, she felt financially secure. Her salary at Bennett Innovations allowed her to cover medical bills without constantly worrying about money. She also found joy in small luxuries: a new coat for winter, fresh flowers for her apartment, and occasional dinners out with friends. These may have seemed trivial to some, but to Emily, they represented freedom and stability. But perhaps the most significant change was in her relationship with Noah and Daniel. After her initial visit to their home to meet Noah again, Emily began spending more time with them. On weekends, she joined them for outings to parks or museums, helping Noah navigate spaces designed for sighted people. She taught him tricks for identifying objects by touch and encouraged him to explore the world around him. In return, Noah's laughter and curiosity reminded her why she loved her job so much. Daniel, too, opened up to her in ways she hadn't expected. During their conversations, he shared stories about his wife, who had passed away several years earlier after a long illness. He spoke of the guilt he carried for not being able to protect Noah from the challenges of blindness and how hard it was to balance his responsibilities as a father and CEO. Emily listened patiently, offering support whenever he needed it. Their bond deepened, built on mutual respect and shared experiences. One evening, after a particularly productive day at the office, Emily sat in her apartment reflecting on everything that had happened. She thought about the cafe where she had spent countless hours serving coffee and dreaming of something more. She thought about the business card Daniel had handed her, which now sat framed on her bookshelf as a reminder of how far she'd come. And she thought about Noah, whose smile lit up rooms and whose resilience inspired her daily. For the first time in years, Emily felt hopeful about the future. She knew there would still be challenges ahead, moments of doubt, difficult decisions, and long hours. But she also knew she wasn't alone. She had a team that believed in her, a family that supported her, and a mission that gave her life meaning. As she drifted off to sleep that night, Emily smiled to herself. She had started as a waitress in a quiet cafe, simply trying to make ends meet. Now, she was helping change the world, one act of kindness at a time. As time went on, Emily became more confident in her role at Bennett Innovations. She no longer felt like an outsider looking in. Instead, she saw herself as part of a team working towards something meaningful. Her days were filled with brainstorming, sessions, user testing, and feedback meetings. Though the work was demanding, it never felt like a burden. Each challenge brought new opportunities to learn and grow, and Emily embraced them wholeheartedly. One of her favorite parts of the job was interacting with people who used the company's products. Every few weeks, Daniel arranged for focus groups where individuals with disabilities could test prototypes and share their thoughts. Emily loved these sessions because they reminded her why she joined the company in the first place. Listening to their stories, how technology had changed their lives or where it fell short, inspired her to keep pushing for better solutions. During one such session, Emily met a woman named Clara, who had lost her vision later in life due to an accident. Clara spoke passionately about the struggles of adapting to a world not designed for her. "It's not just about having tools," she explained. "It's about feeling included, like you're not fighting against everything around you." Emily nodded thoughtfully. "That makes so much sense," she said. "We need to think beyond functionality. It's about creating experiences that feel natural and empowering." Clara smiled warmly. "You get it. That's rare." After the session ended, Emily couldn't stop thinking about what Clara had said. She realized that many of the company's products, while innovative, still focused too heavily on solving problems rather than enhancing lives. Determined to make a difference, she approached Daniel with a proposal. Create a line of devices, specifically tailored to foster independence and inclusion. Daniel listened intently as Emily outlined her idea. "What if we design something that doesn't just assist but encourages exploration?" she asked. "For example, a wearable device that helps visually impaired users navigate public spaces, not by telling them exactly where to go, but by providing subtle cues so they can discover things on their own." Daniel leaned back in his chair, impressed by her vision. "I love it," he said. "Let's make it happen." With Daniel's support, Emily spearheaded the project. She worked closely with engineers, designers, and accessibility experts to bring her concept to life. The process wasn't easy. There were setbacks, disagreements, and moments of frustration, but Emily refused to give up. She reminded herself of Clara's words and stayed focused on the end goal, making life easier and more fulfilling for people like Noah and Clara. Months later, the team unveiled their prototype, a sleek, lightweight wristband equipped with sensors and haptic feedback. Unlike traditional navigation aids, this device didn't rely on constant verbal instructions. Instead, it used vibrations to guide users subtly, allowing them to explore their surroundings independently. When tested by focus groups, the response was overwhelmingly positive. "This feels like freedom," one participant said during a trial run. "Like I'm in control again." Hearing those words made all the hard work worth it. For Emily, it was proof that empathy and innovation could go hand in hand. She knew the wristband was just the beginning. There were countless other ways to improve lives through thoughtful design. Outside of work, Emily continued to build her relationship with Daniel and Noah. They had become like a second family to her, filling a void she hadn't realized existed. On weekends, she often spent time with them, whether it was helping Noah practice using his cane or simply enjoying a quiet afternoon at home. These moments brought her immense joy, reminding her of the importance of connection and community. One Saturday morning, Daniel invited Emily to join him and Noah for a trip to the Science Museum. It was an outing designed to spark curiosity and wonder, and Emily was thrilled to tag along. As they wandered through exhibits, she watched Noah's face light up with excitement. He touched textured displays, listened to audio descriptions, and asked endless questions about how things worked. At one point, they stopped at an interactive exhibit featuring sound waves. A volunteer handed Noah a pair of headphones connected to a machine that translated vibrations into audible tones. As he adjusted the settings, his eyes widened in amazement. "It's like music," he exclaimed. Emily smiled, feeling a lump form in her throat. Seeing Noah experience the world in his own unique way filled her with pride. She glanced at Daniel, who stood nearby watching his son with a look of pure love. In that moment, she realized how much they both meant to her, and how much she had grown since joining Bennett Innovations. That evening, as they sat together eating dinner at a cozy restaurant, Daniel raised his glass. "To Emily," he said, his voice warm with gratitude. "For being part of our lives and for everything you've done, for us and for others." Tears welled up in Emily's eyes as she clinked her glass against theirs. "Thank you," she whispered. "I couldn't have done any of this without your support." The truth was, Emily had come a long way from the cafe where it all began. What started as a simple act of kindness had blossomed into something extraordinary. She had found purpose, built meaningful relationships, and discovered a strength within herself she never knew existed. And though she still faced challenges, she faced them with hope and determination. As she looked around the table, at Daniel's proud smile and Noah's infectious laughter, she knew she was exactly where she was meant to be. Life wasn't perfect, but it was beautiful. And for the first time in years, Emily felt truly happy. Emily's life had transformed in ways she never imagined. At Bennett Innovations, her ideas were no longer dismissed as unimportant. They were celebrated. Her contributions to the wearable wristband project earned her recognition not only within the company but also among users who benefited from the device. People began sharing their stories online, posting videos of themselves navigating streets, parks, and even crowded malls with confidence thanks to the wristband. Emily read every testimonial, her heart swelling with pride each time someone mentioned how the product had changed their daily lives. But success didn't stop there. Encouraged by Daniel, Emily started leading workshops for other employees at Bennett Innovations. She taught them how to approach accessibility design with empathy, emphasizing the importance of understanding real-world challenges faced by people with disabilities. Her sessions became popular, drawing participants from different departments eager to learn her perspective. For Emily, it was humbling yet empowering to see others embrace her philosophy. She realized that her role wasn't just about creating products, it was about inspiring change. Despite her growing responsibilities at work, Emily remained grounded. She made sure to carve out time for herself and her family, including her aging mother. With financial stability came peace of mind. She could now afford better health care and hire a part-time caregiver to assist when she was busy. This allowed her to focus on her career without guilt, knowing her mother was well taken care of. On weekends, Emily continued spending time with Daniel and Noah. Their bond had deepened over shared experiences, laughter, and countless conversations. They weren't just colleagues or acquaintances anymore. They were friends, almost like family. One Saturday afternoon, while baking cookies with Noah in his kitchen, Emily reflected on how far they'd all come since that day in the cafe. Back then, she had simply been doing what felt right, helping a child eat his meal. Now she was part of something much bigger. "Emily," Noah said suddenly, interrupting her thoughts, "do you think I'll be able to go to college someday?" The question caught her off guard. She turned to him, smiling softly. "Of course, you will," she replied. "With your determination and this amazing brain of yours, there's nothing you can't do." Noah grinned, clearly pleased with her answer. "Dad says the same thing. But sometimes I worry, what if people don't understand me? Or if I can't keep up?" Emily knelt beside him, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. "It's okay to worry," she said. "Everyone feels that way sometimes. But remember, you're not alone. You have your dad, me, and so many others cheering you on. And besides, technology is getting better every day. By the time you're ready for college, there'll be even more tools to help you succeed." Her words seemed to reassure him, and he returned to mixing cookie dough with renewed enthusiasm. Watching him, Emily felt a surge of determination. She wanted to ensure that future generations of children like Noah wouldn't face the same barriers. That's why her work mattered, not just for today, but for tomorrow. A few weeks later, Emily received an invitation to speak at a charity gala hosted by Bennett Innovations. The event aimed to raise funds for organizations supporting people with disabilities, and Daniel insisted she share her story. At first, Emily hesitated. Public speaking wasn't her strong suit, and the thought of addressing hundreds of strangers terrified her. But Daniel encouraged her, reminding her of the impact her journey could have on others. "You've inspired so many people already," he told her. Why not let the world know how much one act of kindness can ripple outward? Reluctantly, Emily agreed. Over the next few days, she prepared her speech, carefully choosing words that would resonate with the audience. She wanted to convey gratitude for Daniel's generosity, for her team's support, and for the opportunities that had come her way. Most importantly, she wanted to highlight the power of compassion and innovation working together. The night of the gala arrived, and Emily found herself standing backstage, clutching her notes nervously. The ballroom was filled with elegantly dressed guests sipping champagne and chatting animatedly. As she waited for her turn to speak, she spotted Daniel and Noah sitting at a front row table. Noah gave her a thumbs up and Daniel smiled reassuringly. When her name was called, Emily stepped onto the stage. The spotlight felt intense, but as she looked out at the sea of faces, she took a deep breath and began. "Good evening," she said, her voice steady despite her nerves. "My name is Emily Carter, and I want to start by saying thank you. Thank you to Daniel Bennett and everyone at Bennett Innovations for believing in me and giving me a chance to make a difference. But most of all, thank you to a little boy named Noah, whose courage reminded me of why we do what we do." She paused, letting her words sink in before continuing. "A year ago, I was a waitress in a small cafe, living paycheck to paycheck, and wondering if my life would ever amount to more than just surviving. Then one ordinary afternoon, I met Noah and his father. Helping Noah eat his pancakes felt like such a small gesture at the time, but it changed everything." Emily went on to describe her journey, from joining Bennett Innovations to developing the wristband and leading workshops. She spoke passionately about the importance of accessibility technology and the need for empathy and innovation. "Sometimes, the smallest acts of kindness can lead to the greatest transformations," she concluded, "and I'm living proof of that." As she finished, the room erupted in applause. Guests stood to cheer, moved by her heartfelt message. Among them, Daniel wiped away tears, while Noah beamed with pride. Emily stepped off the stage, overwhelmed by emotion. For the first time, she truly understood the magnitude of her impact, not just on individuals, but on society as a whole. That night, as Emily drove home, she reflected on the evening's events. Speaking at the gala had been nerve-wracking, but it had also been exhilarating. More than anything, it reinforced her belief in the power of connection. Whether helping a child eat, designing inclusive technology, or sharing her story, every action mattered. Every effort contributed to a larger movement toward equality and understanding. For Emily, the road ahead was still uncertain, but she no longer feared the unknown. She had found her purpose, built meaningful relationships, and discovered a strength within herself she never knew existed. Life wasn't perfect, but it was beautiful, and she was grateful for every moment. After the charity gala, Emily's life took on a new rhythm. The speech she delivered resonated deeply with many people, and soon her story began to spread beyond the walls of Bennett Innovations. Local newspapers wrote articles about her journey, highlighting how one act of kindness had transformed not only her life, but also the lives of countless others. Emily received messages from strangers thanking her for inspiring them to pursue their dreams or to approach challenges with empathy. It was humbling and motivating. At work, Emily continued to thrive. Her leadership role expanded as more projects sought her input. She became known as the heart of Bennett Innovations, ensuring that every product they created prioritized human connection alongside technological advancement. Under her guidance, the company launched several new initiatives aimed at making public spaces more accessible. From tactile maps in airports to audio-guided museum tours, these innovations were designed to empower individuals with disabilities to navigate the world independently. Despite her growing responsibilities, Emily never lost sight of her roots. On weekends, she volunteered at community centers, teaching workshops on accessibility tools and advocating for inclusivity. She wanted to ensure that the benefits of technology reached everyone, regardless of income or background. To her, success wasn't just about personal achievement. It was about lifting others up along the way. One Saturday morning, Emily stood in front of a group of teenagers at a local youth center. Most of them had disabilities, ranging from visual impairments to mobility challenges. She demonstrated how to use the wristband she helped design, showing them how it could guide them through unfamiliar environments. As she spoke, she noticed a girl sitting quietly in the back, her arms crossed tightly over her chest. After the session ended, Emily approached her. "Hi there," she said gently. "I'm Emily. Did you enjoy the workshop?" The girl shrugged. "I guess," she muttered, avoiding eye contact. "But what's the point? Even if I learn how to use this stuff, people still won't understand me." Emily nodded sympathetically. "I get it," she said. "The world isn't always fair, and sometimes it feels like no one listens. But here's the thing. You have a voice and your experiences matter. Tools like this wristband can help you show people what you're capable of, and when they see that, they'll start to listen." The girl looked up, her expression softening, slightly. "Do you really think so?" "I know so," Emily replied with a smile. "Because I've seen it happen. People are scared of what they don't understand. But once they see someone succeeding despite challenges, they change their perspective. You can be that person." The girl didn't say much after that, but Emily noticed her paying closer attention during future workshops. Over time, she began participating more actively, even asking questions and offering suggestions. Watching her progress filled Emily with hope. Change didn't happen overnight, but every small step counted. Meanwhile, Emily's relationship with Daniel and Noah grew stronger. They weren't just colleagues or friends anymore, they were family. On holidays, Emily joined them for meals and celebrations, sharing laughter and memories. During one such gathering, Daniel surprised her with an announcement. "Emily," he began, raising his glass, "I want to thank you for everything, not just for helping Noah and contributing to Bennett Innovations, but for being part of our lives. You've shown us what true kindness looks like, and we're better because of you." Noah chimed in, grinning widely. "Yeah, you're like my big sister now." Emily felt tears welling up in her eyes. "You two mean the world to me," she said softly. "I never imagined I'd find a family like this when I started working at the cafe." Daniel smiled warmly. "Well, you did, and we're lucky to have you." As months turned into years, Emily continued to make strides both personally and professionally. Bennett Innovations became a global leader in accessibility technology, thanks in large part to her vision and dedication. Her efforts earned her recognition, including awards and invitations to speak at international conferences. Yet, despite her accomplishments, Emily remained humble. She knew that none of it would have been possible without the support of those around her, her team, her mother, and especially Daniel and Noah. On a crisp autumn afternoon, Emily found herself back at the cafe where it all began. It had changed owners since she left, but the cozy charm remained intact. Sitting at a corner table with a cup of coffee, she reflected on her journey. That quiet cafe had been her starting point, a place where she worked tirelessly to make ends meet while dreaming of something more. Now she had achieved far beyond anything she ever imagined, but Emily didn't forget where she came from. She visited the cafe regularly, leaving generous tips for the staff and chatting with customers who remembered her fondly. She often shared her story with young waitresses and baristas, encouraging them to believe in themselves and their potential. "Life has a funny way of surprising you," she told them. "Sometimes the smallest acts of kindness can lead to the greatest opportunities." Years later, when Emily looked back on her life, she realized how interconnected everything had been. Helping Noah eat pancakes hadn't just changed his day. It had set off a chain reaction that transformed her entire existence. Through compassion, determination, and collaboration, she had built a career she loved, relationships she cherished, and a legacy she was proud of. And as she sat in that cafe, watching sunlight stream through the windows, Emily smiled. Life wasn't perfect, but it was beautiful. Every challenge, every triumph, every moment of connection had led her to this place, a place of purpose, gratitude, and fulfillment. She knew she wouldn't trade it for anything.